We are incredibly excited to be hosting you on this side of the continent after 10 years in Kenya and 15 years in India. And we hope that this West Africa Summit will become as big as of the convenings that we've had in Nairobi, as well as in Mumbai over the years. Our Sankalp team has worked tirelessly over the last few months to put together this phenomenal Sankalp experience for you. And this event is dedicated basically to the entrepreneurs who are solving global challenges creatively and sustainably. Sankalp exists to create enabling ecosystems for these entrepreneurs to thrive because there needs to be a lot of support, a lot of capital, a lot of networks that is going to bring change in the space of development across the continent. So we know that networking is one of the utmost important, is of utmost importance to everyone who attends the Sankalp events that we've had previously. And for the next 2 days, we will have the opportunity to interact with over 300 attendees that include investors, entrepreneurs, and key ecosystem players. Our networking platform is open, so this is an amazing way to engage and schedule one-on-one sessions with the attendees who will be in the room. So please fill out your networking profile or automatically get meaningful recommendations to who to meet based on your personal interest areas. For any meetings that you schedule, you will need to be pre-assigned one of the many meeting tables, and we'll be just showing that a bit later. And if you need assistance in using the app for making booking for meetings, please visit the registration desk just outside, and our team will be on standby to support you on that. So we have some really exciting things planned for the summit. We have a net zero test track right outside, just on this side. So be sure to grab a set of car keys and take a drive on the track. I think they must have their own disclaimers on the other side, so I think they'll explain more details about that. So you can test drive, and the test drive is going to be available throughout the 2 days sessions that will be here. But also just to note, we have a point for collection of plastic bottles for the water bottles that you're using. So let's dispose these accordingly. So on the screen, you should be able to see the Wi-Fi name and password, as well as the hashtag for the Sankalp Summit. Yes, there it is. So hashtag Sankalp West Africa 2023. So I'd urge each and every one of you to tweet, retweet, like, share, and tag us as well at Sankalp Forum. Yeah. Okay, so to get us started, I'd like to introduce my colleague Venkat, who is the partner and the director at Intellicap, based out of our India office, to tell us a bit more about Intellicap and the work across the global South and Asia, as well as East Africa. We have tasked him as well on that. And of course now to also mention some of the upcoming work that we're going to have in West Africa. So please give a round of applause for my colleague Venkat.
Good afternoon, Accra. And I got to see some more excitement. Yeah? Okay. It is such a pleasure and privilege for us to be in Accra. We couldn't be more thrilled to be calling Ghana our home in Africa, our second home in Africa, and the first in West Africa. My name is Venkat, as William mentioned. I have the pleasure and privilege of serving Intellicap as the lead for climate solutions and circular economy globally. I'm based out of Asia, but always hoping that I was based out of Africa. So hopefully soon. Thank you, Anita. For those of you who've met us for the first time, we are Intellicap. We are, on paper, we call ourselves a global impact advisory. But I think that term doesn't even do justice, simply because I think unlike other consulting firms, we believe that we are a solutions company. We have a bias for action, and we do everything from conceptualizing to designing and even implementing programs on the ground. In our 2 decades long journey as IntelliCap and being part of the Avishkar group, we've actually gathered a lot of expertise and experience in building ecosystems. And the reason why we believe building ecosystems is really important is because if you imagine all the work that most of you as entrepreneurs are doing, impactful work on the ground, you need a foundational ecosystem that can help you. And our fundamental, very simple premise is if we can help improve accessibility and affordability to 4 things, then we can help deliver impact on the ground and at scale. Very simply, it's access to capital, knowledge, networks, and technologies. Technologies are solutions, right? We worked with everyone across the value chain over the last 20 years. We worked with the policy actors and governments across Asia as well as Africa. We worked with entrepreneurs, but that's a fundamental to our ethos, which is to deliver impact, which is entrepreneurial-led. We worked with SMEs, helping them in their transition to a green, circular economy. We worked with innovators on the ground, social innovators as well. We worked with foundations, developmental financial institutions, bilaterals, multilaterals over the last 20 years in initiating programs in the Global South. And when I refer to Global South, I'm obviously referring to 3 geographical clusters that are super important if you want to serve the next 3 billion, which is South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa. Now, in our 2 decades long journey, the point of excitement for us is initiating our work in Kenya. So Kenya chose us rather than us choosing Kenya, as we say it. We're very proud of the work that we've been doing over the last 15 years through Sankalp in Kenya. And we couldn't be more proud and privileged to say that Ghana has chosen us as our home in West Africa. So hopefully with your partnership and catalyzing some impactful work in the region, we'll be able to build on the inspiring and progressive work that Ghana has already been doing. Over the next 2 days, as much as we call Sankalp our platform to convene all of you who are actually putting together from your thinking to your actions as an entrepreneur, as a funder, as an investor, as a policy actor, we only want to join and be part of the journey that Ghana and West Africa is already part of. But we're able to do that on the back of strong work that we've delivered across Asia and Africa. But now I'll touch upon a couple of examples that our team, and Kanika, if I can ask you to stand up, you can't get away scot-free. So my colleague Kanika here is the lead for our Africa business, and she's the face of Africa, or Queen of Africa, as I jokingly refer to. But just to give you a couple of examples of the work that Kanika and team have been doing in East Africa already. As one of the strategic partners for the International Solar Alliance, we've actually helped design and structure a USD 700 million blended finance facility for International Solar Alliance to scale solar technologies in Africa. With the help of IDRC, and I know Flaubert is here somewhere, a very long-standing partner and supporter of ours. We're working with climate-smart SMEs in East Africa, helping them adopt climate mitigation measures, but along the way ensuring that we are economically empowering women. We've been partnering with the Rockefeller Foundation and establishing a program that we call the Good Food Innovation Fund, where very simply put, we're working with about 25 odd SMEs in the nutritious food value chain. We're going to help build capabilities amongst them with the end goal of ensuring that nutritious fortified food is accessible and affordable to some of the poorest people in the continent. But more importantly, we're going a step further and ensuring that along the way, we want to improve the learning outcomes for these kids who do not have access to that nutritious food at this point in time. So these are just a couple of examples of the work that we've already been doing in East Africa. For some of the work that we've been doing in Asia, for example, we are We launched a very ambitious program, and we recognize circular economy is such an important part of the Ghana journey. And Oliver, who's here, who's been driving that along with a few other partners, we're actually building the entire ecosystem for textiles and plastics ecosystem for both India as well as Bangladesh, which means everything from recovering waste, ensuring it doesn't leak into the environment, reclaiming value from waste, and ensuring that we are scaling, testing, validating some of the most promising recycling solutions that are available in Australia or Europe or US, and bringing them to make sure that they work with the waste that is generated domestically, because for us, waste is a local problem, right? There's just a couple of examples of the work that we've already been doing. Sankalp for us, the solutions team or the consulting team, as we get referred to from the outside partners. The investment banking team, which helps entrepreneurs and SMEs and enterprises in their capital requirements. The work that all of us do gets convened, and Sankalp is the platform for us to bring everyone who's part of that program. So as much as we say Sankalp is our platform, the fact of the matter is this is your platform. So over the next 1.5 days, please make sure that you connect with the folks that are there on the table, you connect with people who are like-minded, but my favorite word is you'll find a lot of people who are mission-aligned, but you rarely come across folks who are values-aligned as well. And I'm pretty confident that each one of you that is here is not just mission-aligned to making sure that West Africa and Ghana specifically is on an accelerated path to deliver on its vision and mission. And I can only wish you the best of luck for the next 1.5 days. So thank you so much to each one of you for being here. It is a pleasure, and we hope to be seeing all of you a lot more than just once in a year. Yeah? Thank you again, and have a fabulous 1.5 days ahead. If I can request the team to play the video. Super.
The biggest and most important thing that Sankalp has really brought is the networking value, where people from all over the world come together and interact at the right level.
I realized when you can give people the right to make choices, you have made them rich. And I realized that entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship actually offers choices to people. The change in Africa will come when Africans will start believing in their own growth story and start investing in that growth story.
Entrepreneurs are reshaping Africa's economic opportunities.
The two most important challenges that we're facing right now and in the next decade is actually climate change and poverty.
We are recognizing the impact the environmental crisis has on our societies, and it's in a way undermining the fundament of our society and even of the social and economic progress we've seen over the past 10 years. And I think it's really asking us to rethink and maybe reshape also our economies in such a way that they do not only benefit people, but also benefit the planet.
We have two problems. We have the problem of the now. We have to solve the now problem, yes. What interests me is the problem of the future, which is also present now. So we have to simultaneously try to meet the world where it's at the same time while solving our everyday problems. We cannot leave this thing to 5 years from now.
We're doing this because it's needed. We're doing this because it will help grow Africa faster.
SunCup has been super great for me. This is my first time, and so I didn't expect to be in a cloud with people who also are thinking the same way I do think. It's been like in a concert of music that you love most with the people that you love most.
My personal highlight for attending SunCup has been the various networking sessions that I've been able to attend. Additionally, the one-on-one meetings that we set up beforehand are very helpful because it's nearly impossible to get a meeting on the day.
I got to connect with amazing women, right? Especially in our field, women are quite scarce, but having such an opportunity to meet other women doing the same thing that I'm doing and, like just encouraging each other, learning more about each other and our struggles as women and in the same sector was amazing for me.
The fact that we're seeing a lot of these purpose-driven businesses growing in high-revenue ways, attracting international capital, growing, scaling, becoming profitable, it's huge. It's huge, and it's so exciting to see that. It's what I love about being part of this ecosystem. We just help each other and we grow together.
The growth over the years has been tremendous. Over 1,000 participants, great conversations going on, and especially seeing some of the entrepreneurs that SunCup has supported through the years. I think it has been a tremendous journey and a journey that I look forward to being a part of in years to come.
SunCup 10, wow. It has been a fantastic journey over the last 10 years where we've been able to curate 2,500 impact enterprises, mobilize, facilitate $300 million of capital, bring together so many diverse stakeholders, including entrepreneurs, investors of all hues, regulators, developmental financial institutions, philanthropic foundations. It is the beginning of the next decade. We commit to helping the world move to SDGs 2030, and we'll stretch every sinew to make sure that all the outcomes that we have delivered in the first 10 years at least get multiplied by 10. I request you all to participate and keep supporting SunCup in its journey.
Thank you. All right, let me invite Ariel, which I think most of you would probably know. She leads SunCup Africa and the woman behind the amazing experience over the next 1.5 days for you. But while Ariel comes on stage, something that we ask ourselves ad nauseum on a day-to-day basis, and I would urge you to ask those 2 questions to everyone that you meet in the next 1.5 days. One is, what is that one problem that you're really passionate to solve for? Second is, what is that one thing that will help you solve that problem or take you one step closer to solving that problem? So if that can trigger conversations in the next 1.5 days, I think that's a pretty good start. All right, Ariel, over to you.
Thanks so much, Venkat. And I hope that video gave you a glimpse of what SunCup is all about. This year has really been a milestone year for SunCup. We're celebrating 15 years in India, 10 years in East Africa and Kenya, and our first summit in West Africa. It was also for our first summit in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, earlier this year. My name is Ariel. If you haven't met me, you probably have received emails from me. I lead SANCOP Forum in Africa. And when I started and joined the SANCOP team almost 10 years ago, that first summit in Nairobi was very similar in size to this one. But we've definitely learned a few things along the way, and this is already way better than that one was. So kudos to the team already. I sincerely hope that the West Africa Summit will grow in size and scope like the East Africa Summit has grown over the last 10 years, attracting 1,300 plus delegates from all over the world. We first started exploring the idea of hosting a SANCOP in West Africa back in 2019. Then, of course, COVID hit. Everything got put on the back burner, but it was incredible. Every time we had traveled to the region, talked to entrepreneurs, investors, ecosystem players, everyone was struggling with the exact same things we were struggling back with in Kenya and East Africa, which were all too often similar to the challenges that we were seeing in India and Southeast Asia at the time, and it just kept coming up. And people have so often asked, when are you taking SANCOP outside of Nairobi? We had a lot of people say, come to Kigali, come to Uganda, come to Nigeria, come to Ghana. So we had a big ask ahead of us, but ultimately all roads led to Accra. And I'm so happy that we are finally here. I just wanted to highlight a few things that I really look forward to in the region and what SANCOP is really working to build. So the first is building better bridges between Francophone and Anglophone countries in the region. I know that we'll always have a geographic bias when we do in-person events like this, but we were very intentional that we didn't want to only convene Anglophone stakeholders from Nigeria and Ghana and a few other countries. So we really wanted to be proactive and very intentionally stitching together countries from across the region. And I'm really excited to say that we have 21 countries present here today, including Senegal, Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Togo. So there is translation available if anyone feels more comfortable. Please see our colleagues in the back for headsets. Two is that we're really working to accelerate solutions and innovations across the global south by building better and stronger corridors, particularly across East and West Africa. This summit is the first step on a journey to not only build this ecosystem in West Africa, but to connect West Africa with the global south and with the rest of the world. We are thirdly catalyzing partnerships, collaborations, unlikely alliances in an effort to reshape the economy in this region, to drive development outcomes, and to build a better world for our children for generations to come. And lastly, we're here to listen. We've learned a lot over the last 15 years, but we don't know it all. So we want to hear from you, all of you. What's important? What are you struggling with? What are the opportunities that you're seeing? Please share with us, share with our team, share with each other. This is, as Venkat mentioned, this is your forum, your ecosystem. And, while this move into West Africa is a big step for all of us, I just want to reemphasize that SANCOP is more than a conference, that we're a family, we're a community, and we're driving this together as a team and as a collective. If you haven't met our newest addition to the team, where is she? Inam, there she is, say hi. Yes, welcome. Inam has gotten thrown into the deep end the last few months. So please connect with her not only the next 2 days, she is our one-woman army here in the region, and hopefully we'll add a smaller army as we go. So with that, thanks to everyone for joining us today. Thanks to all of our partners, our volunteers, the SANCOP team that has worked tirelessly the last few months to put this together for you. With that, I will hand it over to a far more fun individual. I'd like to welcome Anita Erskine to the stage. Anita is a Ghanaian broadcaster, talk show host, actress, and girls' education advocate, and she also speaks a little French, unlike me. So, welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ariel. Okay, so the one thing I don't do is quiet rooms. So entrepreneurs, put your hand up. Anyone who's an entrepreneur, put your hand up. The rest of you, what are you doing here? Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce my panel, you're going to do something very simple for me, simple. When I make this statement, you either say yes or no. Entrepreneurs have a lot of money. Entrepreneurs have a lot of money. Entrepreneurs know exactly what they're doing. Entrepreneurs know exactly where they're going. Hey, my Lord. But entrepreneurs are the most innovative. Who said yay? Entrepreneurs need support. And entrepreneurs have all the power to transform Africa. Oh, I don't believe that. Entrepreneurs have the power to transform Africa? A little louder, please. Entrepreneurs, can you transform Africa? My name is Anita Erskine. Trust me, as an entrepreneur, I don't always have this amount of energy. Entrepreneurs are tired, they're spent, they're looking for someone or an organization that believes in them. They're looking for money. They're knocking on doors. People are assuming that because you look like you are in charge, that everything is okay. Entrepreneurs are emotionally exhausted. But the reason this room is almost full is because right now, even through what we saw in COVID, entrepreneurs are the only individuals who believe that there is a brighter tomorrow. Yes or no? So a round of applause for yourselves. Now, thank you very much, Sankalp, for this conversation we're about to have, which is on the power of partnerships. And Ariel would have said it, Venkat would have said it, before we leave here today. Please step outside of your shell. Please break that mold of comfort. Get a little uncomfortable. Speak to the person on the other table. Say, hey, this is who I am, and I believe we can work together. The essence of partnerships is one that cannot be found if you remain in the back, well, behind the back door or on the back burner. The power of partnerships relies also on you. With that said, please allow me to bring to the stage and across the stage my panelists for this afternoon. Please welcome with a Sankalp West Africa roar of applause, Dr. Yakama Manti-Jones, Director of Research and Delivery and HCP for... Yakama, stop. Guys, I'm on a timer here. If you don't give me applause, we won't go home today. Dr. Yakama Manti-Jones, all the way from Sierra Leone, Director of Research and Delivery, and HCP Focal Person, Ministry of Finance. That's what I'm talking about. A little louder for the next person. All right, please welcome the CEO of Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing for Agricultural Lending, Mr. Kwesi Korbo. Yes. Last, definitely not the least, please welcome to the stage Invest in Africa's Carol Annan. You know, Sankalp has brought this event here to Accra. I want my brothers and sisters in Lagos to hear us screaming so that this summit stays right here in Accra. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause for my panelists. Hello. Oh, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, Sankalp, thank you so much for the gender inequality against the men. Absolutely, yes. Kwesi, you can look left and right. We outnumber you, but for all the right reasons. Now let's get to the conversation with you, Yakama. Let's start off. You're talking about being an entrepreneur, also talking about being a policymaker. Let's try to outline what it is that can amplify the power of partnerships for both policymakers and entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Sankalp, and thank you, Akora, for having all of us here. As a policymaker and an entrepreneur, I'm always constantly thinking about this question. And what I've come to realize is how we communicate. Whenever I'm in the ministry and it's that time of the year we have to work on the Finance Act, that's when we start reaching out and trying to get the opinions of the private sector. And then when you get to that part, it's like manufacturers organization or association of importers or oil marketing companies. And then you look around the room, those that are mostly in the informal sector are not part of the conversation. And then you start wondering, how does this conversation happen? Is it because of how the private sector is organized, or is it how government itself is organized? So I think one of the ways to strengthen the partnership is organizing ourselves properly. And when I say our in this sense, is us entrepreneurs, private sector, and also how government engage this organized pathway. Because if we're not organized, we don't have clarity in how the conversations evolve. We don't have clarity in what we actually want across the ecosystem. It's just be individual entities advocating for what works for them at that point in time, not having a holistic picture of what it will mean for everyone across the sector or the space. So you have instances where policies are being implemented, but they have to be reversed or constantly changed, affecting the predictability for the private sector, because this communication, this engagement have not been structured, they've not been inclusive, and they've been stop short, like they've not been consistent. So I always say, when we organize well and then we institutionalize public-private dialogue, then it could help us move the numbers in the right direction, because business doesn't stop. There are so many externalities, shocks happen, so you should always have that space where you're constantly in dialogue, where you're constantly sharing experiences, you're constantly sharing feedback on policy implementation, and even collaborating on research to inform policy design. So it's us being partners in every step of the way, not just in terms of seeking interest for our respective wins.
Thank you, Yakama. Kwesi, Yakama used the word shock. And entrepreneurs, though we thrived during COVID, globally, we were shocked. Let's bring this home to Africa. Today, we need $200 billion annually to close the Sustainable Development Goals gap. What role would partnerships, the power of partnerships, play in closing that gap?
Well, it reminds me of the Iraq War, shock and awe. So, you've got a lot of players within the system. You've got entrepreneurs who are trying to make things happen. And you've got also the public space where those who make it possible are not the entrepreneurs. So you got public officials who set policies, who control sometimes the purse strings, and who are supposed to create a situation for entrepreneurs to respond to. I've always used the Apple phone as a clear example. You pick up your iPhone, and I'm sure, how many people have iPhones here?
The real ones, please.
You realize that most of the innovations you have on the iPhone were created through public funding. The military, for example, GPS, touchscreens. But it took one guy called Steve Jobs to put all together, because all the key ingredients were there. So to narrow the gap means that there has to be a deeper discussion between the public and the private. But there's always a problem. The money is there, but the money is not used for things that don't address what those who have the capacity to use require. And let me explain. I mean, what is policy? Policy is a set of actions or objectives to address a problem. The problem in Africa is that we don't even identify what the problem is. And as such, we're able to use the instruments, whether it's funding, whether it's regulatory, to address the core issues. So we keep on chasing after a mirage. And as such, those who have the capacity as entrepreneurs in this room, who are able to bring about that change, whether it's social issues, climate change, close the gap between the poverty gap, are not able to do so. And that, for me, is a challenge. Now, how do we do it? Well, advocacy is one, but advocacy has its own limits. That's a problem. Two, there's a certain awareness that we need to knock on the doors and let those in the public space understand that they are there to serve us, not the other way around. And they are there to meet our needs and goals, aspirations. And I think if we don't do that, Africa will still be where it is. You go to the US, you go to Europe, you see that there's a lot of push and pull. The private sector bodies are driving policy. They are telling government where to go to, where to put resources. Of which in Africa, it's not the case.
So the people in this room essentially have to change that.
Yes, we need more activists, not the negative activists who would stop traffic on the roads. And no. We need activists who are very clear and articulate clearly what their vision is.
I like that, but I also feel that every single entrepreneur is an activist for a sustainable growth, sustainable economies. But Carol, I pivot from Kwesi to you. We're talking about needing to ensure that entrepreneurs have the right resources, that entrepreneurs who are the ones who are able to put all of this together are empowered. I think that empowerment is money. So what can we do to make this investment environment a whole lot more conducive?
Well, I think to start with, yes, there needs to be more conversations amongst us as far as entrepreneurs are concerned. And these need to be open and frank conversations which clearly define what it is that we're looking for. Because if we're going to go to government or to any other stakeholder to try to make sure that the conditions under which we operate are ideal or as close to ideal as possible, then it's important that we have the conversations. But in order for us to have the conversations, as Kwesi said, you will find that there are, or was it Yakam who said it, that there are entrepreneurs in the formal sector and there are entrepreneurs in the informal sector. And in Africa, you will find that our informal sector is quite large. And for us to be able to bring all these conversations into one place, it requires us to be able to build bridges across different industries, build bridges across different types of entrepreneurs, because whatever the challenges we face are, they are quite similar. But if we are having separate conversations in separate spaces, chances are we are not going to make the impact that we are looking for. Chances are we are not going to achieve the results that we are looking for, which will drive the sustainability that we are all looking to be able to achieve. So it's important that we look at how we can leverage partnerships. And the partnerships are there, the groups are there. It takes, I guess, somebody, some organization, some individuals to actually take the first step to build those bridges, to bring us together, to have a conversation. And when that conversation is had, as we have, 21 nationalities in this room, you will find that the conversation in Abidjan is not very different from the conversation in Accra, it's not very different from the conversation in Freetown. But if we all come together as Africa to begin to have these conversations and to drive an agenda, we will make greater impact.
You know, Carol, you talk about the collective Africa. I'm with you. I'm on the same page as you. And I want to use this introduction to move to Yakama. Carol talks about this Africa where we're building the bridge. My concern is, as you build the bridge, our informal sector, which is probably, and I don't have the data in front of me, so I don't know, but which is probably the larger part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, with low literacy levels, they get left behind. Carol talks about a bridge. How do we ensure that everybody is on this bridge? That entrepreneurship, as we're discussing it, is completely inclusive?
I think, as Gracie said, one of the things we should always start is, what's the goal? And usually when we talk about leave no one behind, we usually speak about it in the context of economic development, eradication of poverty. We don't actually often see how it could be applied in different spaces. So when we're talking about the entrepreneurial ecosystem, usually we just hear startups, incubators, accelerator programs. And most of the time, it's with literate businesses, not with petty traders, or those farmers you work with as part of your outgrower schemes or stuff like that. So I think the notion of leave no one behind should be mainstreamed across every space, including entrepreneurship. So when we're saying ecosystems mapping, we map right down from the last mile, the last beneficiary. So when we're designing interventions, when we're designing support programs, we capture everyone across the chain. So they're part of the design in terms of consultations, in terms of research, understanding their needs. So when we design the interventions, it caters for their needs and the needs for other entrepreneurs across the chain. And I think we should be more intentional in how we engage. I often say, if we have a body system, partnering the last mile beneficiaries, those in the informal sector and those in the formal sector, you can have a safe space for more peer-to-peer learning, so you understand their challenges, they understand what they need to learn to move up the ladder. So that way, is holistic learning is taking place. Because we're talking about trading across borders, we have an AFCFTA secretariat, but then it's the women in the formal sector that cross the borders so often. Do they understand the customs regulations? Do the aggregators not exploit them? So how do we put in place literacy trainings or partner them with someone in the formal sector that's also trading across border? So it's just being intentional in the design. Once we're clear on what the global aspiration is, and we work together across step by step, making sure we're learning and sharing with the goal of growing together so no one's left behind.
Kwesi, you have, and I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. You've got,
Oh, yeah.
you're the only
Don't
man
do that
here.
to me.
That's why I'm putting you on the spot. You've got more than 30 years experience in the agribusiness space. So I want us to practicalize what Yakama has just mentioned. Let's talk about the farmers, the people who feed us. What is a practical method, channel, medium through which these farmers don't get left behind?
Well, by saying I have 30 years of experience, you are exposing my age, but I'll forgive you for that. You know, and let me be controversial here. Within the space, there's one actor that we've forgotten, the developmental partners in all this space. So you've got governments, you've got private, you've got developmental partners. Point two, I think as Africa, my observation, working in a number of African countries, seems to me that we tend to conflate the issue of food security and an agribusiness. We tend to conflate it, which is number three. We also assume that anyone who comes from the village should be engaged in agriculture. I mean, the reality is that, you are Sierra Leonean, there are 3 Ghanaians here, I'm sure there are 21 nationalities, so I'm told. And all of us, probably, for some of us who were quite ancient, we're probably a generation or two from the village. Maybe I was even born in the village, you wouldn't know. And when you go back to your hometown, you can see clearly what education has done between those whose father or grandfather did not choose a path of education and those who did.
Yeah.
So it comes back to my question. The meaning I live in a village doesn't mean I should be in agriculture. That's the first point. Okay. Now I talk about farmers. Once you keep the two apart of food security and keep about treating agriculture as a business, then we are talking there. Now, my good friend here mentioned the issue of smallholders, agro programs. There are a lot of these things abound. But one of the challenges we've seen is that agribusiness has to grow organically, it has to be natural. You can't force these things. So I've always believed in what I call the bus principle. You start with those who are willing to join the bus and let the bus move. So you start with a group of the willing. So what is about developing, you can't get, if you go to my village of about 15,000 people in my hometown, my holy hometown, you don't get all the 15,000 people engaged in agriculture or be willing to jump on the entrepreneurial platform. It won't happen. What you need is to start with those who are willing, have the capacity, and then move them. That's the first point. And in moving them, you invariably move the rest with you. Some may choose to work for such entrepreneurs because they created large bodies for them to earn an income. Because you realize that I used to manage a plantation, and we had over 700 workers. All of them had their own farms for food security. And that's why I'm always very clear that let's deconflate the two. So start with those who are willing, and the rest will follow. That's the first one. Number two, there are a number of private sector businesses in all various agricultural value chains in the country, every part of Africa that I've been to. There's always this problem of, well, you are being cheated or everybody should be an entrepreneur. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I mean, let's face it. There are those who will lead, there are those who will follow. Those who will lead, shape them into good leaders so that they can give leadership to those who will follow them. That's the way it is. Now, how does government, public sector, developmental partners, then understanding the natural ecosystem, help pull them along? And that's where the failure is. It's all about numbers. I intervene in the share nut value chain. I want to get 10,000 women pickers reach a certain level. So whether these are inefficient or efficient, I record, I have touched 10,000 farmers, I clap for myself. That's wrong. So I think that everything has its own natural progression. Start with that one. Those who are in the forefront, push them. And when you push them, they will push the people along with them. That's my philosophy. I don't know if I've answered your question.
You have.
Or I've
You
created
have.
more questions.
You've created more work for me, but essentially you brought, your answer has brought me to a very important element that I also wanted to bring up. But thank you very much for that. You mentioned women, you mentioned leadership, and Carol, immediately, women in leadership for you is also one aspect, one very important aspect of your work. Now, again, I don't have the statistics in front of me, so do not quote me. But it feels like a lot of investment goes towards men founders, male founders, men-led businesses. Can we curb this? How do we curb it collectively?
That's a loaded question, but
inspired by Kwesi, you see, you gave me more work.
It's true that a lot more of investor capital is directed and ends up with male entrepreneurs and male-led businesses than it does with female entrepreneurs. But I think there are a number of issues that bring this about. And in being able to answer your question, I will just share from my experience what I have seen happen both for and against. And I think the first thing is that women generally tend to be more cautious. So when it is that you find women entrepreneurs talking about growth and talking about expansion and talking about raising capital, they tend to be a lot more reserved and a lot less bullish about numbers. So, because women are always, or have the tendency to look at things from the perspective of, let me take enough that I can manage and manage well because they don't want to fail. On the other hand, when you listen to men, you tend to hear a lot more of them coming up with numbers and ideals and dreams and, objectives that are sometimes impossible. But they are so confident when they say them that investors and funding partners are more interested in talking to them. And it goes to somehow answer a bit or speak to a bit of what Kwesi said, that they want to be able to invest X amount of money. Now, the women come up, and what we talk about is maybe just a tiny percentage of what the target that they're looking for. And it means that they're going to have conversations with a number of women, to be able to reach that target. And you're looking at the time that you have to be able to meet that target, versus when you're speaking to a few men and you will hit that target straight away. So that's one thing that comes, I guess it's part of the natural inclination of the female. And it doesn't mean that everyone is like that, but a lot of us are like that. On the other hand, men are, by virtue of, I guess, how they come into the world and take control, and it's also, cultural, it's as a result of the environment you grow up in and how you are socialized. So the men tend to be able to command a lot more attention when it comes to talking about funding, when it comes to talking about investment. And so you'll find that in the formal business space, there are probably more male-owned and male-led and male-dominated businesses. Whereas when you go into the informal sector, that's where the women operate. And, you know, sometimes these conversations tend to make me feel like putting on my feminist hat, because it really should not be the case. But we are creatures of the environments and the systems that, you know, in which we grow. And that is what, unfortunately or fortunately, has contributed to this. So it is a question of a conscious effort to really sort of, in bringing up our girl children, to really, and in the language that we use around us and in the way that we communicate, to be able to let women feel that it is okay to want to take the front seat. It is okay to want to dare to do big things. And you can do as well as the men can do, if not better. So if you believe in it, go for it. And to have many more of us encouraging our fellow women who are successful to go on and become super successful. And that, I think, will help us push that, push people's minds and the mindsets away from what it is now, where women tend to be not an afterthought, but they tend to come second to the men in the thinking of funders and investors and so on.
Yeah.
Even in policy, you find that it's the case.
Kwesi, I have a good mind to ask you what you think about Carol's answer, since you're the only man on the panel.
Well, I was brought up by my grandmother.
I'm sorry?
I was brought up by my grandmother.
So you think...
She was a very strong woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do women need to do to make their businesses a lot more attractive for investment?
No, Carol hit the point. I mean, the clear issue is that women are cautious by nature, okay? We men, we can be a bit reckless, if I should say so. And that's something...
That's all I wanted you to say, the reckless part.
But, you know, so the issue is also there's a social, cultural, and other issues. And I'm not a sociologist, but I mean, take politics, for example. A woman is very aggressive and they say she's not ladylike, for example, which is sad. I think that we need, okay, what I realize these days, you know, I want to be a bit eloquent. What I realize these days is that a lot of the women, the younger women, the Gen Z, the millennials as they call them, are more strong in conviction than my generation or my mother's generation and so forth. So we're seeing a wave. We're seeing some level of steadfastness in them, and I hope that it will change. You know, and when you look around corporate world globally, I mean, whether Pepsi or you see a lot of women now reaching the heights, which 30, 40 years ago, it was impossible. So I think that there's a change going on. When the change goes on, we need to find a way to accelerate it. That's the way I see it.
Lovely said. Beautiful. Carol, I come back to you. I wanted him to use the word reckless, which both you and I cannot use. He did it. He fell into my trap. Carol, I come back to you, but to talk about Invest in Africa and what you have done to ensure that, you know, the power of partnerships is the name of the day. What do you do?
Okay, so what we do to harness and enhance partnerships in Invest in Africa is that, first of all, we have a network. We belong to a network, but we also have a network of entrepreneurs and businesses who we engage with on a regular basis. Now, what we have done in the past and continue to do is to strengthen the network in terms of how we operate it. So we have come from a point where we were the organizer, we were the one that came up with whatever the ideas were, and we would drive them. So though we have other stakeholders in the network, like we have, you know, government agencies, we have ministries, we have the businesses, we have the funders, we have our banks, we have regulators, and so on. What we have found is that it was quite a tiring job being everything to everyone. So what we are evolving to become is more a coordinator, where we, first of all, we come together with our stakeholders and we identify what our shared objective is. And we try to encourage each of the stakeholders to come up with what they do best, which fits into that shared objective. So we are sharing the responsibility, but we sit sort of on the same side as they do. So there's nobody in the center, but we just coordinate all the activities, and we use our coordinating power to forge relationships amongst the stakeholders who ordinarily may not have come together. And so we broaden the conversation, and we get all the members of the network to begin to listen to each other and hear each other, and therefore have the contributions that they make be influenced by what the network's needs are and what the network's objectives are. So we've gotten to the point where even in determining some of the interventions that we carry out, it is not just what we think, but it is what we all think. And in delivering the interventions, we leverage, again, the expertise within the network. So we are just deepening the engagements and making sure that there are many more conversations happening, but they are not, we try to get the conversations to happen within our site, because that's how we are able to track how well the network is working, how well it is growing, and where there are weaknesses. So we encourage network participants to make sure that whenever there are connections that are outside of within the network, but outside of the view of the coordinator, from time to time, we get information and feedback from them, which goes back into how we continue to evolve as a network. So that's what we do. And what we've done very well recently is to also get the network participants, because in our network, typically a lot of the businesses, the SMEs, are recipients of contributions or initiatives that are funded by other parties.
Right.
But what we have also got them to do is to believe, one, in themselves, is to look at the communities in which they operate, and to be able to then forge networks at that level, which bring stakeholders, community and local stakeholders together. And what our entrepreneurs and our businesses then do is to work together to undertake projects in those communities whose impact they all share, because they all contribute to it. And by so doing, it's amazing how many of the community participants who are really informal sector operators have come into a conversation that they would otherwise not have been invited to. So that's how we are leveraging partnerships to be able to extend and deepen the impact of the work that we do.
Thank you so much, Carol. We've run out of time. I've got 1 minute and 15 seconds, and I throw that to you, Yakama, because in this room there's more than 21 countries. Across the West African region, 17 countries. What do we do collectively to accelerate what we're talking about now, which is the power of partnerships, to accelerate collaboration?
I think one of the things is undertaking collective investment. Because if we're thinking about how we trade amongst ourselves, one of the issues is connectivity. And I always say it's not just physical infrastructure connectivity, also how we can connect in terms of skills. How how do we certify a plumber in Sierra Leone and his qualifications are acceptable in Guinea? So for formal education, it's clear you have a university degree, but for skills and tech folks, how do we make sure the qualifications are accepted across nations? We have conversations around regional electricity projects. Can we have regional rail projects, regional road projects? That could help us leverage partnership. We've always signed up to different trade agreements, but how are we doing in terms of implementation? So having delivery-oriented secretariats that track implementation. We're talking about leveraging the tech revolution. Do we have dashboards that show how every country is doing in terms of implementation? Not only for healthy competition, but for peer learning, for transparency and accountability, and bringing more partners on board to understand how the journey is going and how they could plug in to help unblock challenges and accelerate impact. So I think it's us thinking outside the box in terms of what we should partner on and how we should partner in implementation, and having that constant feedback loop for active problem solving, leveraging data and technology, and engaging everyone across the chain.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for my panelists. Dr. Yakama Manti-Jones, Director of Research and Delivery and HCP Focal Person, Ministry of Finance, thank you so much. Of course, we had the greatest man amongst us, Mr. Kwesi Korbo, who's the CEO, Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing for Agricultural Lending. Thank you. And last, definitely not the least, Carol Annan, Invest in Africa. Please give them give them a Ghana round of applause. Thank you, thank you. William, I think I'm handing over to you, correct? Yeah. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we've had a few minutes to listen to the concept of the power of partnerships, what we must do individually and collectively. And now to take us into the next part of this extraordinary history-making SANCALP West Africa Summit 2023, please allow me to bring to the stage a woman who turns words into meaning, who turns meaning into soul, and who turns soul into something for all of you to think about. Please welcome Nora Anidoho.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here. My name is Nora Holali Anidoho. I am a spoken word poet. I make meaning of words. Thank you very much, Anita. That session was amazing. I'm here to tell a very short story about entrepreneurship. I'm going to need your eyes, I'm going to need your ears, I'm going to need your full attention. In the beginning, your world was formless and void. You looked on as the citizens of your world struggled to make meaning of their world, and they bent their backs with the bulk of their burdens. And you purposed in your heart to lighten their burden. The people of your world struggled. They struggled with things and burdens, and they did not know where to turn. So you set your mind and your heart to create for them a solution. So you set your mind and heart to work your heart and mouth as well. You spoke things into being, and with your hands you gave shape to your vision. You wrote them down and made them plain and handed them to heralds. And with your hands you carved and molded and made the solution that your world craved. And you called your business the solution. With fire and passion and diligence, you brought forth your creation. The people of your world are enthralled by the value of what you have created, and they offer silver and gold because you have lightened their burdens. And you and your business take on one after another the burden of your people, all who are interested. And now the demands may have grown bigger, and the visions may have gotten brighter, and the passion may be burning hotter, and the tasks have grown endless. And now there's a long list of things to do, bills to pay, breath to catch, businesses to run, demand to meet. 24 hours is no longer enough time to create. You have your noses buried in books and spreadsheets, trying to make meaning of words. You have your noses buried in books and spreadsheets. If only for 1 second you would close your eyes and you would take a deep breath with me now. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Open them. Look around you. For the first time, the answer to the solution that you seek, the answer to the problem that you seek, is seated right beside you. When creation began, the Lord spoke words into being. He said, "Let it be day, let it be night, let it be dark, let it be bright." And all was quite all right until the pivotal moment when he had to create arguably his most important instrument. And then he said, "Let us create." In the building, in the creation of things of value, the Lord needed partners, and so do you. So now, for you too, in the most pivotal part of your moment, your let us create moment, it's here, right here. In the creation of things of value, we all need partners. So now, see for the first time hands that are eager to help, mouth that is eager to encourage, bones burning with the same fiery fire that burns in your heart, people that are willing to grow your business, your passion, your dream. Look around you. Everyone in this room is a partner. And the answer to your let us create is right here, right now, at the Sankalp Conference 2022. Do not miss this opportunity. Thank you.
Another round of applause, please, for Nora. Thank you. Now, I think we'll be moving to the next step, which I think is going to be one of the exciting moments, especially for the entrepreneurs. So several times in a year, the Sankalp runs what we call the Sankalp Award. And basically, this is just an award that seeks to identify some of the most promising and upcoming entrepreneurs across the continent, to provide them with guidance and linkages to investors. I think the panel had spoken quite extensively about partnerships, and basically creating a forum where we can support these entrepreneurs through their journey as they go ahead with whatever they are implementing. So we did run the SunCalp Awards, and this we received applications from 12 countries, including Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Mali, Senegal, Gambia, and of course Ghana. And these entrepreneurs who had submitted the applications basically cut across different sectors, including agriculture and agribusiness, healthcare, water, health and sanitation, circular economics, as well as energy, and clean energy at that. So we had a team internally that went through the screening of the applications, and the most promising 15 organizations or 15 enterprises were identified, and they were given an opportunity to pitch to what we call the screening committee, which of course comprised of investors from across the region who helped the SunCalp team narrow down the companies to a pool of about 10 finalists. And these 10 finalists pitched to the esteemed grand jury that we had earlier today, this morning. And the jury has helped us to select the winners of the SunCalp West Africa Awards 2023. Let's clap for the contest. So I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to the 15 screening committee members, as well as the 11 grand jury members, who not only helped us in selecting the most promising organizations, but also provided invaluable advice to these entrepreneurs. Thank you again for all your time and your insights. And I hope some of you might even decide to invest in some of these organizations. So before I hand it back to Anita, I'll just quickly take you through the SunCalp Award program. And I'd like us to give a round of applause or a hand to the organizations, the SunCalp Award finalists. So I'm just going to I'll mention the name of the company, and from where you are, you can just stand and wave to the audience. So the first company I'll mention is Alcoford Corporation from Togo. We have Drug It Solutions from Nigeria. It was just in time. I think they've just come in. We have Farm Corps from Nigeria as well. We have Green Afro Palms from Ghana. We have Kitovu Technology from Nigeria. We have Motito from Ghana. We have Pad Up Creations from Nigeria. Then we have Shack Express from Ghana as well. And Simk from Nigeria. Then we have the last company called Sustainable Energy Technologies Limited. Thank you. Yeah, so again, let's just give them one round of applause. And now I'll invite Anita to take it from there.
Winners, are you winning? Oh, if you're not winning, I can take all of these home. Winners, are you winning? All right. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the first is the category called the Ecosystem Award. Now, this award is by public voting via the SunCalp website. Allow me to bring to the stage two presenters, Venkat Kojamajaru of Intellicap and Kelechi Ofegu of Impact Hub Accra to present the Ecosystem Award. It's got to go to somebody. Yes. Okay, either one of you.
You do the reading and you present. Drum roll, ladies and gentlemen, for the, come on, I can't hear you.
Drum roll.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
Yes. Okay. All right. I have the honor of calling up, let me see, where are they? Pad Up Creations. A round of applause. A round of applause, a round of applause.
Ecosystem Award goes to Pad Up Creations from Nigeria. All right. Okay, so take your picture very quickly. All right. Congratulations. Congratulations. All right. And that was our first award, Ecosystem Award, going to Pad Up Creations. Congratulations. Now, thank you very much, gentlemen. So, Madam Pad Up Creations, don't go anywhere. Stand right there. Don't go. Stand right there. You make jollof for me tonight. All right. Who said, oh, yeah? All right. And now, our second runner-up for the Sankalp Award will be presented by Sana Steamers and Kofi Atwa. Please do the honors.
Thank you. Thank you. So I got the envelope, you got the prize. Are we ready, guys? I need a drum roll. Thank you. So this award goes to Shak Express from Ghana.
Second runner-up of the Sankalp Awards, Shak Express from Ghana. Congratulations, Shak Express. All right, thank you very much, Sana. Thank you very much, Kofi. Our first runner-up will be presented by Sebastian Grus of Siemens and Enam Beko of Intellicap. Please join me up on stage and do the honors. And this is for first runner-up. You want to do a simpler one? Here you go. Definitely. Okay. And apparently, you're going to do the tougher one.
Okay. The first runner-up. Can we have a drum roll? Kitovu Technology Nigeria.
First runner-up goes to Kitovu Technology from Nigeria.
Ça fait rêver, ça fait vibrer, ça fait danser. Oh Africa, Parihula Barataya Visa de Sorona, Bakiwaye, Yewala Malilela,
Congratulations.
Senegal, Benin, Yaoundé.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that leaves us with only one award. So those of you who were in the top 10, whose name hasn't been mentioned, stand up for me. Now you are shy, stand up. You've been in the top 10, you are in the top 10, your name has not yet been mentioned. You know, one of the things we used to hear when we were in primary school, it's not the winning that counts, it's being nominated. And I said, that's not true. Winning is everything. But Venkat said something very pivotal before we started. He said, everybody in the top 10 is a winner, and so you are. Please, a round of applause for everyone who was in our top 10. But of course, in life, someone has to lead, and the rest will have to follow, but with pride. And so with that said, allow me to bring my presenters for the winner on the stage. Please welcome Flaubert Mbieko of IDRC and Karnika Vade of Intellicab. Karnika, it looks like you're going to have to do the hard work.
Okay, any guesses for the winner? Anyone has any guesses? Okay, so the winner is...
Wait, hang on. I think that's a mistake.
Oh, is it? Green Afro Palms.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
And so, no, DJ, wait. Do you know what just happened? We just mentioned the ultimate winner. Ladies and gentlemen, a wild round of applause for the winner, Green Afro Palms from Ghana. Please. Congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for the winners, Shack Express Ghana, Green Afro Palms Ghana, Pad Up Creations Nigeria, and Kitovu Technology Nigeria. Please take center stage. Another resounding round of applause for the winners of the Sankalp Awards 2023. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Hear the children crying.
The word, I tend to want to ask in this moment is if you felt in that final moment when you were pitching that, you know what, come what may, today I'm taking home an award. Did you feel that way, Pad of Creations? You did?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Please move the microphone a bit closer to you. So you did know you were going to win?
I knew I was going to win.
Why?
Especially this, because we have over 331 permanent staff working in the company. We have over 19,000 women who are sales agents and who are earning living wage, selling our products. Though we know they had difficulties trying to sign up and to vote, but I was really highly expectant of this because my team members have committed a lot of time trying to vote for the company.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's start off with the winner. Because naturally you are the winner. And I'm always intrigued by what inspires an entrepreneur to do what he he or she does. What inspired you to start this business?
I'm a mining engineer by background, and when I was in school, I was telling a friend today that I virtually did all my internships on the mine. So me being an entrepreneur in agric is something that always I have to reflect on again. But there was this simple ideology. If we couldn't use engineering to solve problems for the society, then what was it for? That has always been the mindset for me. So I bumped into a report that showed that West Africa used to be the world's supplier of palm oil in 1960. Now I was reading this report in 2012, and then I read that West Africa is a net importer of palm oil, whilst Malaysia and Indonesia pick the crop from West Africa, and they are making the gains of it. So I was wondering what the problem was, and in review, I saw that lack of processing technology for the smallholder farmer was the reason why they couldn't process. So I was like, why not? Let's put our minds to it to see if we could use the engineering bit beyond the mining to now solve the problem. So for me, it's about how do we empower the community with the knowledge we gain from our education, and that has been it for me.
And you've never looked back since?
Yeah, I've never. 2015, declining expatriate jobs, family looking at me like, is he okay, and stuff like that, friends and all of that. It's been an 8-year or so journey, yeah.
And now you're taking this award home to show the family that thought you were crazy.
For me, I always feel some way about these awards because it always helps me not to regret the decision I took. So I see these as more like endorsements of the work that we do. That if somebody wanted to find solutions to African problems themselves, it is a worthy cause. That's it for me.
Extraordinary. Now, Kitovu, everybody thinks entrepreneurship is about being able to wake up in the morning whenever you like, sleep whenever you like, watch a few movies, and if you like, don't go for meetings. After all, it's not a traditional 9 to 5. But surely entrepreneurs face challenges, and most people, when they start their businesses within the first 2 years, face the kind of challenges that cripple them. Did you, or have you ever faced a major challenge that has made you question this venture?
Absolutely. For me, as I know must be the case for every entrepreneur, it's one day, one trouble. You're in the business of fixing problems. So you fix one, you fix another, and you keep fixing problems. That's all you are ever going to do as long as you're an entrepreneur. For me, I have faced several challenges. But there are lots of them that are, top of mind. I remember one time we supported smallholder farmers, and then, into some months into their cultivation, we got a report that the entire farm had been grazed by cattle, right? Where do you begin, And then you've taken out insurance. Insurance tells you, sorry, but that's not an act of God. So you have largely no base to start from, right? So huge problems. I've had particular days that I asked myself, like we say in Nigeria, who sent you message? Yeah? I remember one particular time we got into a project to support tomato farmers, and we are doing a trial run to create market access for them. And then we moved roughly about 1.2 million naira worth of tomatoes to the open market. We didn't know better then. And by the end of the day, after selling it, we sold everything for 229,000 naira. We made a net loss of over 700,000, right? And I was asking myself, how did I get myself into this crazy thing? I mean, my mom wanted me not to get into entrepreneurship. And when I started, everybody thought I was throwing my life away. So there are definitely those days you wake up and you wonder who was swearing for you in the village. You know? Yeah, so that is like that.
Shack Express, we're listening to the story about absolute loss that could break any human being down, forcing them never to even get back up. What lesson has entrepreneurship taught you that nobody and nothing else could ever?
Well, that everything is possible and you can do anything you tell yourself you want to do, provided you want to do it. When I started Shack Express, my fear was, can we last for 6 months? After 6 months, my fear was, can you last for a year? Then a year, I was told that most startups fold up within 3 years of operation. Today, we are 3 years, and I'm worried about the next 10 years. So I just realized that anything you perceive, so far as you can dream it, you can feel it, you can touch it, you can do it.
And when you see someone endorsing your product or your service, what goes through your mind?
Well, the first thing is that, well, there's more to do. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is it confirms that I'm solving a problem and there's a need for whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the third is obviously the fuel to fire.
I know. So, Padap, how do you stay motivated? Now, the gentlemen and your co-winners have described what could be the worst, but the beauty of persistence. How do you stay motivated?
It's a big one. So I've always had this ideology that profit will fail you, passion will fail you when there is no profit. So when I started the business, making reusable sanitary pads, I found the girls that I was even making the pads for, rejecting them because they didn't understand what we were talking about. So at that point, there was no profit. Even the people that you thought you were creating solution for was not even understanding what you're talking about. So I told myself that compassion will actually keep you going. So when I started changing the narrative was telling them the importance of using our products, and today over 8.7 million distributed across 19 African countries. It's really inspiring to walk along the street. I mean, I've seen a couple of people say, hey, I know you here, right here in Ghana. And they say, hey, I know you, you're part of. So it's really very inspiring walking along the streets in Nigeria and you see school-aged girls running up to me to hug me and say, oh, thank you for making this sanitary pads. So compassion, when you look at those who are benefiting from your product, compassion will keep you going when there is no profit because passion may fail you when there is no profit.
Compassion was always the name of the game, every day.
Every time.
Every time. To each of you, before you take your seats, I'm going to start off with you, Pada, because you've got the microphone. You've got this room full of entrepreneurs. We're live online, full of entrepreneurs across the continent, around the world. What's the one major lesson that you may either have discovered yourself or have been taught by someone or a situation that you feel every entrepreneur has to hear? And the same question goes for each one of you. Let's start off with you.
So for entrepreneurs, understand the problem that you're trying to solve. Try to have a brand story that relates to you that every other person will understand. When I started earlier, I met a couple of investors, I met a couple of government officials to see if they can revalidate the idea. I remember 2 months ago, one of them walking up to me and saying, Olivia, if I had given you 20 million last 6 years, maybe by now I should have been cashing out. So don't expect that as you're starting, people are going to validate what you're going to do. The confidence you have in yourself is just to keep going and don't give up.
Thank you. Shack Express?
Well, I would say that you are not mad, not yet. Whatever you're doing, however you feel is valid. Keep going. work with partners where possible, and just get things done.
Kito.
Okay, first I would say you must understand that business is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So don't burn out. Build support systems early so that you don't burn out along the journey. And the final thing is that you must understand that the only thing that is sacred is your vision. You can change the system, you can change the model, you can change everything, but have a fixation on your vision. Every other thing is expendable. Thank you.
Green Afro.
All right, so I'll speak to the African entrepreneur, and this is what I'll say. The only way this continent could move from the all-time description of Africa rising to a risen Africa is when we solve the problems of this continent. And for that reason, every African entrepreneur should just make this ring in their minds that we are on a mission beyond ourselves, but for the continent. So we should keep on.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause for the winners of the Sankalp West Africa Summit 2023. Please, louder than that, louder than that, louder than that. And an even louder applause for all of you who were in the top 10. You are winners by far. So we'll grab one more photo, and I'm going to ask the rest of the top 10, come and join your compatriots. Please join them on stage. You are winners. We celebrate you. Somebody goes home with the award, but you have the award in your heart. So all the top 10, please come onto the stage, surround the winners, and this is the Sankalp energy. We are all winners. Solving one problem a day at a time, a moment at a time, to move Africa from rising to risen. And it shall be achieved, it shall happen. Congratulations to the top 10, and congratulations to our winners. Please, another round of applause for them.
Thank you very much, Anita. And again, congratulations to the enterprises that have that were awarded. Let's give them another round of applause, please. It's usually very encouraging to see a lot of these, homegrown solutions, being curated and being rewarded. So we really just want to tell them that keep them up, and also for the rest of the entrepreneurs in the room, we're behind you. So I guess this now marks the end of the end of the formal session and the start of the actual Sankalp West Africa Summit. We have incredible arrays of sessions, networking opportunities that are lined up for each and every one of you. So please make sure you visit all the different sessions. Try the net zero test track just outside here. The exhibition booths, which are just right outside. And of course, schedule all the meetings, have all the networks, carry your business cards, and then just make use of the networking platform. So we have a networking break until about, I think, 4 p.m. But feel free to interact with the various participants, exchange ideas, get to know what they're doing, tell them what you're doing, and just build those contacts for your use. So again, I'm just going to reiterate, don't forget about the plastics. We have a recycling station that's outside that you can use as you dispose of the plastic cups. So please kindly make use of that. So with that, I think we can officially say that the Sankalp West Africa 2023 Forum is on. And thank you. Clap for yourselves as well. I think you've been clapping for everyone, and no one has been clapping for you. So yeah, all the best, and happy networking.
As my face are faded by